As I mentioned before, in our yoga practice, we're working on these different levels, not just physical, working with the mental, emotional, energetic, and spiritual. So, to give you a rough idea of how this all works, I'm going to go into each different style of yoga and explain a little bit more how they work individually and what makes them unique and separate, and what you'd also expect to practice if you came to one of these classes. But before I start that, I just want you to know that every single pose and every single class is working fundamentally on the same way. Okay? So every single class, every single breath practice, mindfulness practice, meditation, yoga pose, they are all trying to move energy or release blockages within your energetic body, and that is not the nervous system. Okay, it does work on that. That's more of a mental and physical level, but this is the kind of energetic level that we were working on. And if you know anything like about like meridians or acupuncture, traditional Chinese medicine, it's the same kind of thing. You're working the flow of energy, the flow of chi, or flow of prana, is what they would call it in yoga. And if our flow of energy, or prana, is like at the best of its ability, then every single part of ourself begins to function in its most optimal state. Okay? So that means whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever, it's working on all those levels. But when you go to a yoga class, you might find that you go to one yoga class one day, and then the next day you go to a different one, and they're completely different. And you're sitting there thinking, how can these possibly be working in the same way? Because they seem so different. One of them seemed like maybe a very intense workout where you were sweating a lot, and then maybe the other one seemed like you were just kind of lying down and breathing and chilling and stretching. So to go in this a little bit more detail, we'll start off with Hatha Yoga. Again, as I mentioned before, it is the sort of the queen of, or the mother of yoga. That's where all other styles of yoga came from. So within Hatha Yoga, usually the way that it is taught, if you go to a Hatha Yoga class, you will do some sort of warm up poses, and then you will do the Hatha Yoga sun salutations, Surya Namaskar. And then after that, you'll find that you usually hold poses quite a long amount of time, and then you maybe have a little rest, and then you hold another pose for a very long time, maybe have another rest, and you kind of do this back and forth, and then you have a little cool down at the end, and you have your Savasana. So this is what it may feel like on the physical level. You may feel like it's really kind of pushing you towards your limits, actually testing you. You find that it's kind of helping to build a lot of strength and stability and stillness and grounding within the postures. And it is kind of working on that deep level. You know, it's really giving your body that long exposure to that pose to make sure that you are feeling the benefits from that pose. Some people don't like this because we have to kind of be still, we have to be strong, we have to be steady and stable. But this is where we start to get a lot of the mental benefits. So it teaches our mind discipline, the best discipline to stay. And this is big because in our modern day life, it's so easy for our minds to just give up on this one thing, move on to the next thing, think about the next thing. But when we are in these poses that are challenging and they're active, we have to really dig down deep and not let our voice, that inner critic, start to talk you out of the pose or distract you out of the pose. Okay, so it creates a lot of discipline. And when we compare that to, let's say, Ashtanga yoga practice, you can say that Ashtanga yoga practice definitely creates a lot of discipline as well. But when you practice Ashtanga yoga, it can come across as very intense, very fast, very challenging. And this is the practice where you will do your sun salutations as a warm up, and they'll be a bit different from the half the sun salutations. And you will then do about 50 postures within the class that are the same set sequence, and you hold each posture for about 5 breaths. We move on to the next one, on to the next one, and it is designed to generate and build up a lot of internal heat. Okay, so this is what makes it a little bit different. It's kind of unique perspective is that you're trying to use that building up of heat and kind of pushing yourself and constantly moving into these different poses to keep challenging you. And it's quite good if you're someone that kind of feels that you struggle to maybe stay still. Hatha yoga can be very challenging if you find someone has a very active mind. But if you practice Ashtanga, it can actually channel that mindset, and it can help you to create a more disciplined mind. So it really helps people who maybe have quite like anxious or just thinking, fast-paced minds. You usually find that Ashtanga yoga can really help them. Then, if we were to compare that to Vinyasa, which is what derived from Ashtanga Vinyasa yoga, you'll find it's even faster. So again, it's going maybe one breath per movement, and as soon as you start, it kind of just goes on and on and on, and it just kind of builds the heat up and heat up and heat up, and it can almost evolve into more of like a well-coordinated dance where you almost kind of feel at some point you're just jumping around your mat from pose to pose, doing this thing to that thing. And again, this can be extremely challenging, but it can be really fun. Okay, so it creates this freedom within the mat of where you're kind of like free to explore your body, you're free to move in a different way, and it's not rigid like sometimes Ashtanga can be quite rigid, and sometimes Hatha can be quite rigid as well. So again, if you're someone who's got that mind that doesn't like boring, repetitive things, it can really help kind of channel that sort of like fun, creative, just more like it is more challenging, but because it's not the same every time, it helps you to keep having that motivation to go back to practice. Where sometimes if you're practicing the same thing over and over again, you lose that motivation. They both have their own benefits. For example, when I first started practicing yoga, I did a lot of vinyasa yoga because it was just fun. It was easy. It caught my attention, and it got me to start to connect to my body. And it was constantly challenging me. I was learning a lot, and it just kept bringing me back. And then when I practiced Ashtanga, I found that it was really hard because it was just, oh God, we're doing that same thing again. But that is what starts to create more discipline within your mind. So it's when you start to get more of that mental benefit. And then if you go from Ashtanga to practicing Hatha, there can be quite a lot of dread, like, oh my God, this is going to be torture. I'm going to be holding this pose for ages and I can't move and it's just going to be terrible. And again, if you learn to just like put that little negative talking voice back and you learn to just accept it and just stay present within that moment and be in the pose, then you really start to find that discipline, you start to find that peace and that contentment within your mind. So this is really great if you are someone who's like quite active, you're looking to get into yoga, and you like the idea of like starting off at a place where it's not going to be too challenging, and you want to find that like, oh, maybe I want to go for that faster, freer, flowing pace. You could try vinyasa. And then if you thought you started to get grips with yoga and you really wanted to try something different and you had the chance to practice Ashtanga yoga practice, then you could definitely look at trying that out. And then if you started thinking, oh, maybe I want to try and just see what it feels like to push to that place of like stillness, then you can look at your hatha yoga practice. But all these practices are quite challenging. They require a lot of energy and they are fairly somewhat active and intense. And for some people, you might not even ever really practice anything like this. The good thing about this practice is when you create that discipline within your mind, you start to learn that presence and that connection with your body and develop that awareness. It does give you huge mental benefits, okay? Because it doesn't just stay on the mat, it carries throughout the rest of your life, okay? And then when you learn how to stay focused and composed within yourself, and you're doing these challenging poses, you learn to construct your way or hold yourself in such a way where that on the inside you can stay relaxed even if the outside external circumstances feel challenging. So this is where it really helps to build up that like internal part of you, which is what yoga is always really working with. However, if you don't like the sound of any of these, then I would highly recommend having a look at yin yoga. So yin yoga is very different. Okay, you can say that these other forms of yoga are yang yoga or active energizing practices, whereas yin is cooling down, calming down, slowing down. So yin yoga again is very new. It's the newest form of yoga. There's other forms of yoga that are even newer and cooler. We'll talk about them maybe in another later date. But yin yoga is all about finding that stillness with ease. Okay? So there is no pressure, no intensity, no strength, no activation. It is all about learning to unwind. Almost like allowing yourself to just break free from all of the kind of stimulation, all the thoughts, all the noise, and it wants to bring you almost into a state of meditation where you bring all that awareness inside and you start to connect to that place of just being and just breathing. Again, this can be a really hard practice. To begin with, when I came across it, I found that my body really needed it, but my mind could not handle it. When I was trying to like stay still, fidgeting was coming up, anxiety was coming up, restlessness, and it took me a very long time of consistent practice with yin yoga to be able to learn how to really just relax, to just let go of all these like distractions, to let go of all the noise, and to just kind of be here. And if you're someone that's interested in learning like meditation and mindfulness, highly recommend yin yoga. It just is like a embodied form of meditation. So if you were coming to a yin yoga class, you'd be holding poses anywhere from like 2 to 5 minutes, and it would all be easy. Like, all want to keep yourself in a state of ease. So no pulling, no pushing, no forcing, all just relaxing, resting, unwinding. These are the kind of four main styles of yoga that you really come across. You'll find that you come across loads of other styles of yoga because really there are as many different styles of yoga as there are different teachers. So one thing I would recommend is if you do just find a teacher that you like, stick with them, see what classes they offer, and try things out. Because find someone that you think can speak your language and you understand what they're trying to teach, and you feel it's working for you, go with them. If you're kind of bouncing around looking at different people, especially practicing yoga online, then have a look at these different styles of yoga, and that will give you a bit of an idea of what to expect anyway. So thank you again for your time listening, and so you can start to understand and deepen your uh, yoga practice. So now you have some guidance to go and maybe look where you want to look. And if you still have any questions on different styles of yoga, what to expect, what are the benefits, blah blah blah, we can go even deeper into this. But as a basic general outline, this is kind of what to expect, how it kind of works with you, and how you kind of start to feel in those classes.